Today we'll look at why sometimes it's not enough to just show the picture to tell the whole story, and special guest Monika Andre shares her experience and her issues when doing people photography while traveling. This episode is supported by PhotoPlus. Join the photography and videography community at PhotoPlus 2019, October 24th to 26th at the Javits Convention Center in New York City. This 3-day photography and videography event exposes you to everything you need to improve your business and hone your craft. Get your hands on the newest gear from leading brands and hear practical tips during interactive sessions led by well-known experts directly in their booths. Visit photoplusexpo.com and use promo code TOPFLOOR to register for free. This is Tips from the Top Floor, episode 879 for September the 19th, 2019.
Tips from the top floor, tips from the top, alright, from the top floor.
Hey, hello and welcome, it's Chris Marquardt, you're listening to Tips from the Top Floor. How is your photography doing? Serious question, when's the last time you've picked up your camera to deliberately work on that creative muscle? Is that more than a week? If that's the case, then pause this show right away. Right now, press the pause button, grab your camera, and spend 5 minutes. Here's your task. Hunt for something interesting around your place. You get 5 minutes. I'm serious. That's all it takes. I want you to stop, press pause, pause button. Do we have pause buttons anymore? Press the stop button. Go shoot for 5 minutes right now. I'm serious. I'll wait. I won't go anywhere. All right, welcome back. Got your 5 minutes in? Hey, I'm proud of you. Okay, that is literally 5 more minutes of photography that you wouldn't have done without this. So, if you've got something interesting, if there's a photo that came out of those 5 minutes, post it on your favorite social media with the hashtag TFTTFNow. Yeah, that's TFTTFNow. I want to see your photos. And everyone else will too, so post them. All right, today's going to be a different show. There's a chance that we'll go a bit meta on this show. Because possibly even a bit uncomfortable at times, because I've asked my better half, Monika, who is an amazing photographer in her own right, about what stresses her in photography. And you might have noticed this is currently my favorite question. I'm asking everyone that because, over the years with doing the photo tours and the workshops locally here, we just a couple of weeks ago had a workshop here again. This is something that I started to realize that everyone has some stress points in terms of photography. Something that they don't like about it, something that makes it difficult for them. I have those too. And so I asked Monika about that, and we got into a deep discussion that moved into travel and people photography and people while traveling. And while that's not along the lines of the typical Q&A type show, like stuff that you would typically expect here, where you ask, how do I do X, Y, Z? And I answer, do this or that. Well, this one is clearly not along those lines. I think it's an important discussion to have. It's a fascinating discussion to have, especially because it is about how we feel about the things we do as photographers. It's about the perception of others when they look at our photos. It's about the means to tell the story, the whole story that you might not be able to tell in just one single photo. And above all, it's about things like respect towards our subjects, the people we photograph, the people we encounter in foreign countries, and also the respect among each others when we're somewhere as a group and different people might have different goals and you have to align that somehow. So it really is an interesting discussion. I really think it's definitely worth listening to. Before that, I'm putting this early in the show because I don't want to interrupt the discussion. So let me say a quick thanks to this week's sponsor, Photo Plus Expo. You've established a solid career, but these days it can be tough to shine among growing competition. What are you doing to make sure you're up to date with the latest trends, technologies, and techniques? Register for Photo Plus 2019. This 3-day photography and videography event exposes you to everything you need to improve your business and hone your craft. Get your hands on the newest gear from leading brands and hear practical tips and tricks during interactive sessions led by well-known experts. Exhibitors host education sessions directly in their booths. Topics cover everything from lighting, composition and design to image capture, retouching and storage, and better promoting yourself and your work. No matter your specialty, you'll connect with peers and creative leaders and gain access to a full spectrum of technical and tactical knowledge to put into action right away. Your competition continues to elevate. Take the time to invest in your craft. Join the entire photography and videography community at Photo Plus 2019, October 24th to 26th at the Javits Convention Center in New York City. Visit photoplusexpo.com and use promo code TOPFLOOR to register now for free. All right, let's get on with the discussion. So, Monica, I've recently been talking about stress in photography, and I've asked on Twitter what in photography is stressful to people. And I've done this because I have just over the years doing workshops and meeting a lot of photographers, I've noticed that they are stressed about things. Is there anything in photography that you are stressed about?
Now I'm asking myself where to start. I think one of the things that stresses me out most is comparing myself to other photographers.
Okay.
Especially those that are with me during my photo trip or my photo tour.
You're talking about a specific tour here, aren't you?
No, not really. I see that I tend to become more and more aware of the people, of the photographers around me. The longer I take photographs, the more stressed I get. That's a funny thing. So
is this okay? Let me try to paint a picture here. And I was alluding to a specific tour because after that you were at least partially upset about several situations, and we're talking about Ethiopia, where you were surrounded by a bunch of nerds with big lenses and big cameras, and you had your film camera with you, your Pentax 6.7.
Yeah, this was especially tough for me because there I combined two things. So when you shoot film, you never have the option to check your display if that shot you just took is a good one.
While the digital ones had their pictures finished at the same evening.
Right, and they were chimping all the time if they got the shot, and if not, they just took a second one. And I had in total, I think, 60 rolls of film with me, so that makes 60. That makes in total with the Pentax 6x7 600 pictures for an entire trip of 3 weeks. So I did not have the option to put my camera on burst mode and just shoot away and pick the best pictures.
And 600 pictures in comparison to, I remember returning with, 4,500 pictures.
Yeah, right. I know that some of us took the 600 pictures in one day. Mm-hmm. And I had them for 3 weeks. So that was especially tough because it was more important than ever that I believe in what I see and that I believe in the pictures I take. And that I just not question my decision, but go for the scenes and go for the stuff I like. And I recognize that whenever I look left and right to what the others do, I completely lose my ability to have my view with me and to look at the things the way I usually do it. So I'm totally often thinking, is that good enough? Or was that shot a better one? Or was that shot just too static and I should go more for the people? And I normally have a good ratio from people to detail to abstract shots to landscape shots. It's just what I like to shoot. And during that trip, it was this aspect, this ratio that I didn't get it. I was so after the shots the others took. I mean, I got
You tried to replicate what the others were doing?
yeah, a bit. I mean, I got a few excellent shots. I may not have gotten without that. So a lot more people shots, more portraits, more. So I had to leave my comfort zone. Of course, I mean that was a good thing. On the other hand, a lot of shots I usually would have taken that I especially like that also cover a country or cover the character of a country I did not get because I was constantly looking left and right, and that stressed me out. And then
let me just interject here for a second because I want to mention one thing that is really important in this context, and that is after you returned home and you started developing those rolls of film and started scanning them, there were an amazing amount of gems that you discovered that easily surpassed a lot of the stuff that I did there. So in terms of wow, in terms of story, in terms of emotional content, that I couldn't have, that I didn't do, that I couldn't get. My shots are way more analytic, way more, I don't know. It is really interesting.
Let's agree to disagree in this regard.
Well, okay, but there's this big discrepancy here, where you were so out of your comfort zone during the shoot, but later on you started to discover all these amazing photos that you took. But some of them a month or more later.
It took me a while though, because I was still so in the impression that I had already seen so many pictures from all the guys with me that shot digitally. So I had already seen so many pictures, and I couldn't find those pictures in mine. Mine were so different in many regards. So it took me a while to recognize that I had good pictures there, just different pictures. And this is what I mean. I have to trust myself to take good pictures. And
because you can and you do take good pictures.
But I tend to lose that ability to really trust in myself. And I see that also. Second thing, right now I am trying to get a bit back to shooting digitally, So to also feel comfortable with a camera that has not film in there, and that makes me uncomfortable in a different way, because I lost my ability to pre-visualize bits and bytes and the picture that I've taken with a digital camera.
But it works with film?
It works with film. I know exactly what kind of film I've in there, and I know the contrast character of that film. I know how I want to develop it and which developer to use. So I actually have the look of the film kind of, I have that pre-visualized. So
because the film does a lot of the work.
Right, exactly. And I know when I take a certain kind of slide film that I love, that it gets me moody, hard contrast, a moody look and feel, and I know when to use that. And I know exactly we have this weather today, and I am in this mood, so I take this kind of film to get the pictures I want to. And but I want to go back to shooting also with a digital camera, because it's so much faster, and sometimes I want the quick results, and I also want to share my pictures earlier on social platforms
not
a
Flickr, month or two later.
Not a month or two later. So it will never cut film photography away from me. This is just not possible. That's where my heart is. But I know that I was able to shoot with a digital camera and to get good pictures out of that. So I want to go back to that. And now I see that looking at a RAW, how it comes out of the camera is so disappointing to me. This is such a non-picture that I again have the problem to see what I saw when I pressed the shutter button. And to bring it to that emotional quality and to the meaning I had in mind when I pressed the shutter.
When I go back to Ethiopia, sorry, I have to stick around Ethiopia just for a second, because that was really an interesting experience for both of us. Here's a question to you. Do you think that I don't know, is being intimidated the right word?
Surely was, yes.
Do you think that also has to do that the other photographers around you were only guys? I mean, if you follow my social media,
Yeah.
you will understand that this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. Women in photography, I believe, are don't really exist that much outside of a few specific fields, and I think that's a problem.
Yeah, most probably, yes, it was related to that fact. On the one hand, that I recognized them being much more offensive, even when
In which way?
When going for a specific shot. So really flirting with the people, but not only flirting, but really going in the entire way to get this specific shot, even if a person did not really want to get their picture taken.
Okay.
That was the one thing, and I'm just not able to do that. I'm feeling really bad about this.
I mean, there's one thing if you do let's say a street portrait of someone to try to create some rapport, to try to get a smile, because
Right.
that will make the situation easier.
Getting a smile is not a problem at all. I think consent is important, and you only get a smile with a certain amount of consent. But you can. I felt not comfortable with the way some of them got the picture. That was the one thing. And then I had, especially in La Libella.
I mean, let's be specific. What did they do? I mean, is this something
Sometimes they just overwhelm people. They really they talk to them and get after them.
heavy flirting, sort of?
Heavy flirting,
Yeah.
and I mean, there's still a way out for people. That's not the point. But I would stop so much earlier in saying, okay, this person obviously does not want the picture taken, so I just don't try.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think when we travel to a country like Ethiopia, we are more in power than the people there are, because the money we spend just to get there, some of them will not earn in their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So there is
There's an imbalance.
There's an imbalance. The level of power is not the same. So you come with a big camera and the big lens in front of that, and just hope that you get the shot and that you get it without paying for it. Maybe even that. And I'm just so aware that I would have to treat the people as respectfully as possible, because even me being there and looking for shots I would not get in Europe, that is a bit like going to a zoo.
Mm-hmm.
Very directly speaking. So I know that now people will be offended of that what I say, but
It's okay to offend.
and I think you have to be especially careful to really keep that amount of respect that every person has the right to get.
Yeah.
That's a human right to be treated respectfully. And I think if you go into a country where people do not have the privileges you have to be super aware of that.
Uh-huh. Okay. That is the behavior of others that stresses you out about photography.
Yeah, and also
right?
because I question myself: am I capable of doing it the right way? The way that I'm telling their story and not mine. Being a tourist from a wealthy country and travel to a country that is where people are poor, oftentimes, and that is something I have to get right. And looking at others, I'm back and forth between, I would so love to get this shot too, and on the other hand, if I get it, did I treat the people in the right way?
I think there is some similarity to to the ethical exif discussion that we had of months and months ago, maybe a year ago, maybe, where some photographer suggested for wildlife photography to have additional information on the picture that tells you how this picture came to be, what if the animals were manipulated, if they were captured, if they were released, if they survived the shot, that kind of stuff. I mean, that is an extreme example, but
I got
I'm just wondering if we need something, or if it would be advisable to have something along those lines for human situations.
Absolutely, I would at least recommend to maybe take a few notes on how the picture came to be, and how maybe the dialogue between you and, for example, the person on the picture was, because I got a lot of questions when I published a few of my portraits from the Afar girls.
And I was present there. Which you were by far the most cautious in the group. You allowed a relationship to form before you took the picture. It was absolutely clear that you had consent. It was 100% clear that that person did not at all mind to be on the picture. So what kind of comments did you get after you published some of those?
Yeah, first there was always the question, did I have consent?
Which is a fair question.
Absolutely, it is. If I had the option to bring the picture back to the person, of course I have not, because most of the people don't have an email address where I could send a digital copy or whatever.
We're talking about a small tribe at the side of the road who are nomadic and will probably move to somewhere else. There's no addresses of any kind.
I got asked how many pictures were taken of that person. So how often did she have to play the model on that day? And because for example, if you travel to Kenya and you are in a hotel, some of those trips get organized by the hotels, and some of the people they being the model during a day for 50 to 100 people. So that was not the case when we visit that little village. We got invited by the head of the village to come into the village.
It wasn't even an artificial situation. It was more like, let's stop, and then our driver went there and asked, and then they opened their arms and welcomed us and showed us how to milk a goat, and it was like this real interaction.
Yeah, right. They invited us into the tent and show us how they lived, so everything. And I got one picture of a girl behind a veil. And I know that her father tried to bring her to lower the veil, so to get her picture taken without it. And I recognized that she was not comfortable with that. And we, with kind of a sign language, we agreed
you don't need a lot of words.
No, we agreed that she can have it up. And it was even a more beautiful picture to me, because that was how she would dress during the day normally, in front of foreign people or in front of people that are not part of a family. So that was the more authentic picture to me, and so it was the more important one. But I was happy that I had the story to tell, because I got asked really hard and really pressing questions. How did you take the picture? How was she feeling? How often had she been modeling during that day? And did they get money?
Exactly those ethical exif kind of questions that, on the one hand, I think are fair to ask. On the other hand, I kind of wonder if we need different ways to tell these stories, because the picture itself obviously isn't sufficient.
No, it isn't. And I think on the one hand, if you travel to a country and you want to portray the country, I think you have to take pictures of the people, because they are part.
Of course.
They form the country, they form the society. So if you want to tell the story, people have to be part of that. So I think it's a lot to ask people to go to a country and do not take pictures of the people there. But you always have to really think of how to do it. You have to think beforehand. I think if you're willing to pay something and yes, how much, And I think it's a good way also to discuss that among photographers. How do we want to approach people, and how do we set boundaries, or how do we accept boundaries people set and say when they
I
say,
mean,
yeah.
in general, if you are a respectful being that shows respect to others around you, I mean, that's just a general thing. Accepting boundaries should be the norm. There shouldn't be any transgressions of any kind unless there is consent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you always have to think about the story you want to tell. Is it your story as a foreigner in a foreign country, or are you interested in the story the people have to tell, be it visually? So because you normally do not speak the language and it's difficult to really get their story, but to really think about what do you tell, and is it do you just reproduce something you have read in a National Geographic, or is it something new? Is it something you feel when you're there, and is it the story of the people?
One thing that I think complicates matters if you travel is that there is a language barrier. And interestingly enough, when you're there, it is surprisingly easy most of the time to get to the consent part, where you smile at someone, you point at the camera, they smile back, and they give you a very clear sign that, of course, you can take my picture. I had this so many times that it's obvious in the moment that you are not coercing them into doing something they don't want to. Rather the opposite. Very often people are like, hey, come on, let me pose for you. Let me show you, I don't know, my craft. Let me demonstrate something for you, and you are more than welcome to take pictures. This happens all the time, but you do not have a record of that. And that, I think, is an additional problem. And of course, it's hard to have them sign something, or if you can't even speak the language. So I think that is a problem.
I think it's also important to make them aware that you're taking the picture. You can get a lot of shots with a telephoto lens from far apart, and the moment the person recognizes that you just have taken the picture, it's too late. And they are too far away to do something, or it's too late, and the picture's in the can. And I think for myself, I think it's a good way to really go into the scene with really only light telephoto, or even standard lens or wide angle lens, and really move into the scene and give the people the option to opt out and to say, nope, that's much too close. And on the other hand, you have to open up, and you strip yourself from a certain amount of power when you go into that scene in a moment where you're maybe out of your comfort zone, and so you make more an equation out of that, because you are so close to the people and you are so part of the equation. And I think there's also part of the consent to really make them aware. I have to go in. I cannot hide behind my telephoto lens, but I have to go into the scene and really interact.
And 100% agreement from me, because I've been saying this for the longest time, that if you do any sort of street photography, that is kind of street photography, even in a foreign country, the shorter lenses, the wider lenses, the shorter focal lengths create more of a balance of power, because yes, you have to be closer, and they will notice you much more, and you will also create the situation where they will have an opportunity to opt out. And I think the other thing that's important is that it's your job as a photographer to be a lot more sensitive to signals from others, to have your antennae up and realize that is probably a no.
Absolutely. And to be able to do that, I think you have to do your homework and research a bit on the place you are going to. So research about society, how do the people interact, how are the structures in society or the structures in family, how are women going to be treated? Is it okay for them to be seen in a group of male photographers, for example? So I think you owe it to your pictures and to the people to know what you're going for, and to do at least a base amount of research on that, what is waiting for you.
And be sensitive when you do it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There we go. I want to thank Monica. Thanks, Monica, for being so open about your experience and your feelings. And of course, being who I am, it's in my nature to immediately jump to searching for solutions to the issues you mentioned. But honestly, I think there won't be a silver bullet. I mean, let's take the example of the ethical EXIF thing that I hinted at for travel and people photography. And of course, I think it would be great to have that information for any kind of photography that involves people, not just other countries, but like the street photography that you do where you live or in any other city. Just imagine there was a way to include meta information in photos, like, I don't know, was the person on the photo aware you were taking their picture? How did you communicate with them? Was it verbally? Was it by gestures? Were they happy for you to take their picture? And so on. I mean, there's just a whole lot of stuff that the questions that Monica got asked, right? That is, I think, important things to know. And we have a hard time telling these stories. But of course, I'm realistic enough that I know that wouldn't really work. Because, I mean, with all these kind of things, it would have to rely on self-reporting. And which photographer would incriminate themselves, right? If their ethical standards weren't that high. So I don't think there's an easy solution. I don't think there's a silver bullet. But of course, as someone who travels to other countries, and as someone who takes photographers on photo tours to those countries. I mean, I'll go back to Ethiopia in March, and I'm really looking forward to that. It's such a great country with such great people, and a big part of what we'll do there is people photography. We'll go to see the tribes in the Omo Valley, and this is a lot about this is building rapport, building a relationship, a short time relationship with someone. And then take photos of people, of their life, of their, whatever they are happy with, for us to take pictures of. And these kind of thoughts about respect and about that imbalance of power, that stuff is on my mind. And while it's clearly impossible for me to be impartial here, because I do, this is part of my business. I think what I can do is to spread awareness that it's okay to discuss these things, that it's even necessary to think about all this, about the implications of your photography, and maybe I can even facilitate some form of discussion about that. I think realizing this and making it and speaking it out, verbalizing it is the first step into more awareness of this. So, discussion among photographers, among ourselves, and I wouldn't want this to be out in public. I think there's. I don't know. I think it feels better to have this discussion within the group first, and I think the TFTTF Slack would be a good place to do that. So what I've done is I've created a channel, a genre-travel channel. That's what it's named, and I will link that in the show notes. So if you're on the Slack, you can get right on there, and if not, you again at the end of the show, I'll tell you how to get on the Slack. And maybe we can use that as a place to talk. Maybe we can use that as a place to exchange our thoughts on this. I would be happy to see you there. And I'll put a link in the show notes. Thank you.
You won't talk about this, you
And that was it for today for this different episode. Thanks for being tuned in. If you want to talk, you can reach me on social media or just come and visit us in the TFTTF Slack. Again, there's a great community. There's discussions about all things photography, and you are more than welcome to join us. And of course, again, thanks to everyone who supports this show on Patreon. It really makes a difference because your support allows me to go down different routes with this show and try different things, keep it interesting, explore new avenues. So yeah, that's thanks to your support. And the 45 wonderful people supporting every single episode are Jeremy Kerwin, Jeffrey Block, Alex Kroso, Bernhard Goldbach, Daniel Hertrich, Ken Davidson, Leslie Ridland, Marco Binder, Matt Armstead, Peter Morrow, Scott Wurzel, Tom Stewart, Aaron Pinasov, Stu Silverman, Alan Bruce Horn, Andrew B., Anthony, Bartik Bosky, Chadley Clark, Chandra, Christopher Greenhill, Dave Smith, David Recht, En Kyung, Francesco Scaglione, Greg Anastasi, Holger Krupp, James Trimble, Jim Caldwell, John Donahue, Josh Hopko, Jesme AMR, Ken Berian, Kyle Nishioka, Marvin Aaron, Michael Grunert, Peter M. Spreadling, Rob Duber, Robert Goshko, Ryan Gilio, Sina Farad, Steven Sandler, Thomas Nielsen, Trevor Palmer, and Woody. Thanks everyone. You're the best. And anyone else, if you'd like to become part of this wonderful group of great individuals, go to tfttf.com/Patreon. Thanks. You're awesome. Music for the show by Jeff Smith, Simon Partner, and HB Kogerud. Publishing and Slack challenges by Release Pixie, Matt Revsitter Armstead. Slack invitations by Chief Invitation Officer CIO Rusty Russ. And if you want to be part of this discussion, the link to get on the Slack is tfttf.com/Yslack, WHYSLACK. Check the show notes. My name is Chris Marquardt. You'll find me on social media at Chris MARQUARDT. Go out and take amazing photos, share them with the world, be nice to each other, and happy shooting.